Hey guys, it's Madeline, and today I'm going to be doing my wrap up for March 2017. I will say I only have one physical copy of the books that I read, and I'm going to try and put like the covers here, but I'm not very good at editing / know how to do that yet, so hopefully I actually do it. We'll see. The first book that I read this month was The Opposite of Loneliness by Marina Keegan. This book is a collection of short stories and essays written by Marina Keegan, who sadly died in 2012, I believe, before she really had a chance to put out the things that she wanted to do. Like, she was a graduate from Yale and she had like great jobs lined up. She was going to be a writer. She had so much potential. So it's kind of really sad to read what she had written, because it was so good and you just thought this was her just starting out. Imagine what she could have been in years to come. I gave the book 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed some of the first essays that were in the book. Some of them I just didn't get, and maybe they just weren't for me. But overall it was a really good book, quite sombering to read, but overall I'd recommend it. The second book that I read this month was Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Nouvelle. I'm so sorry, I probably got that wrong. I actually listened to the majority of this on audiobook, which I highly recommend because it was probably one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. It's about this woman who, as a girl, she finds this giant hand like in the ground. It looks like part of a giant robot, and as she's older she becomes a scientist and she's put on the team to really learn more about this robot. They're going to try and find the other bits, put it together. I say robot, but it's more like an alien artifact. There's a whole cast of characters which are all voiced by different people on the audiobook, and it's just amazing to listen to. It's done in like an interview style, which I actually really enjoyed. I gave the book 4 stars overall. I really enjoyed it, and it leaves on a bit of like a cliffhanger, so I'm so excited to read the next book as well. The third book that I read this month was The Song of Achilles by Madeleine Miller. I mean, her name's so similar to mine, and I hate it when people mispronounce my name, so I apologize in advance because that was shocking. Madeleine Miller. This was a retelling of kind of like the Iliad, the story of Achilles, which I am quite familiar with. I actually studied it in my first semester of uni when I did my history subjects, Myths and Legends. So it was really interesting to read this retelling of Achilles. It's told from Patroclus. I can't even say, pronouncing names is my weak point. It's told from Patroclus's point of view, which was Achilles' like companion, and in his book there's a romantic relationship between him and Achilles, which I loved. Overall I thought this book was really good. I gave it 3.5 stars. I found the beginning to be really good and I was so invested in the story. In the middle, when they went to war, I was a bit bored, but the ending definitely like upped it up a notch, and in the end I was sobbing. I really enjoyed it, so I recommend picking it up and having a read. The next book that I read was probably one of the most disappointing books I've ever read in my life, and that was The Bird and the Sword. Yep, sorry, just checking I got that title right, by Amy Harmon. This book, I thought I was so set up to be so into it. It said the story of a girl who she no longer speaks since her mother put like a curse on her, and it said that like if she does die, her dad will die and he's like after the throne. So it's like this fantasy with all this magic, and it was shit, for better of another word. It ended up being just a terrible romance. Even just thinking about it makes me angry. Like, the romantic interest, for the majority of the book, I was like, she's gonna realize he's a douchebag and then go with this other guy, and I was like, yes, living for it. And then I realized that that wasn't gonna happen. Like, I'll find quotes. Princess would say stuff, I can teach you how to please me because it's your job because I'm the king, or like, I will put a child in you. like, and that was supposed to be romantic, and he talked about like owning her like a possession, and I was like, no, alarm bells for me. I would be out of there so quick. I just couldn't get behind a relationship like that, and the ending was just crap. Like, there was no build up. There was like a big problem obviously that they got to fix in the book, and it got resolved in like the last bloody 20 pages. Like, so anticlimactic. Shit, hated it. I think I gave it 2 stars, but really realistically it's probably like a 1. The next book that I read was The Princess Saves Herself in This One, which is by Amanda Lovelace. This was a book of poetry, which I was excited to read because I have been into poetry a little bit, but this one I just did not connect with. It has poems that are about like abusive relationships, self-love, all that kind of stuff, but for me I just didn't connect. So I gave it 2 stars, but definitely I think it's a kind of book you need to read for yourself and you know, make your own judgment about. And the last book that I read this month, I do have a physical copy, and that is Bone Gap by Laura Ruby. This is really loosely a Hades and Persephone retelling. It's about the town of Bone Gap, and it's told from multiple perspectives of the people in the town. It's based on Finn, who's one of the 2 brothers that the character Rosa lived with, and Finn watched Rosa get kidnapped, who's kind of like our Persephone in the story, and it's a story full of magical realism, and I really enjoyed it. It's so hard to explain, and I know I did a really shit job just then. I gave it 4 stars overall, and I definitely recommend you pick it up and give it a read. So yeah, that was my March wrap up. I know I'm not good at explaining books, but I'm trying and I'm gonna get better. That's like my goal. Let me know what you read this month down below, if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and I'll see you for another video soon. Bye!